Now, what in the world does the day mean? Well, that's why I asked you to turn to 2 Corinthians 5:6. One of the number of passages in the New Testament that talks about what we will come to know as the Bema seat of Christ. Let me read it to you. It says, "Therefore," Paul speaking to the Corinthian church, "we are always confident and know that as long as we are at home in the body, we are away from the Lord. We live by faith, not by sight." Meaning, as long as we are here on earth, away from the Lord physically, and we have to live by faith because we can't see Him. "We are confident, I say, and would prefer to be away from the body and at home with the Lord." I mean, if we were all honest, we'd all say, "Yeah, take me to heaven right now. That sounds good to me. I'd love to be with Jesus right now. That sounds like a good deal." But we can't. He's left us here for a reason. Verse 9. "So we make it our goal to please Him, whether we are at home in the body or away from it. Whether we're here on earth or when we get to heaven, we will have one goal. It will be our driving motivation. Our one focus will be to please Jesus." It should be today to be pleasing Jesus. That word please is the same word used in Romans chapter 12, verse 1, where we are told to offer our bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to Him. It's what we're about, is bringing a smile to the face of Christ. Why is this our driving force? Paul gives one reason in verse 10. You ready for this? The reason that this is our driving force is because we all must appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that each one may receive what is due him for the things done while in the body, whether good or bad. You say, "Wait a minute, Pete, time out. I've heard you preach." I know I've heard you preach, Pete, that we don't have to go through the judgment. You're right, you've heard me preach that. I'm talking about the judgment of the great white throne. That's described for us in Revelation chapter 20, verse 5 and following, where the book of life will be opened, and those whose names are found in the book of life, those who have trusted Jesus for salvation, they will be ushered straight into heaven. Those whose names are not found there, they will be cast away for eternity. That is the judgment that we get to escape because we're Christians. But the Bible teaches that as Christians, there's a judgment for us as well. That's what he's talking about here. The word judgment seat in the text is the word Bema in Greek. Not Beamer. We're not talking about a German sports car. Bema. Bema. The Bema was an elevated seat at the top of steps where a judge used to sit and cast judgment upon people. People brought their disputes before him and he would make settlements there. Apparently, one day, in 1 Corinthians it is called the day, all of us who are Christians will sit before Christ, we will be pulled out of our chair, we will stand before Him, and He will judge us. Now, what will that judgment look like? Well, that's a great question. The Bible doesn't have a whole lot of detail about it, but it does teach us some general principles. What I'm going to do over the next 4 weeks is I'm going to teach you what the Bible has to say about this so that we can be focused on that day instead of today. And you will realize how short life is and how little time we have to make an eternal impact. How am I going to do this? Well, the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to tell you a story. It's a story my friend has written. That's why you don't have notes. I want you to go ahead and close your Bible, put your pens down, put them on the floor, and get ready to hear a story. My friend is Tim Stevenson. He's the pastor at Crossroads Bible Church in Louisville. He writes books in his spare time. Don't know how he does that. And he's written one, and he gave me the manuscript. And folks, as I've been reading it, it is changing the way I live. As I was reading it, I think, if this is changing the way I live, I know it'll change the way other people live too, so I'm going to share it with you. The book is called The Bema. It goes something like this. Boy, have I had a day. What a day. I mean, of all the days, this was the day. Literally, the day. There's never been a day in the history of mankind like this day. But in order for you to understand it, I've got to take you back to the very beginning. It started like almost every other day starts. I got up before my wife and my kids did because I had to get to work on this proposal. Lately I've been skipping church, I've been skipping the kids' games, I've been skipping dinner, I've been skipping everything because I got to get this proposal done. The reason I got to get this proposal done is because the boss is kind of tightening the screws a little bit. And he's told me that if this thing flies with the Adams Group, there may be a partnership in this for me. And I want to provide for my family, so I'm really driving for this thing. Driving to work, going as fast as I can. I park my car. Sun isn't even up yet. I'm going through the front doors. As I'm walking through the front lobby, I hear Joe, I don't even know his last name. Joe the security guard, I call him. Maybe that's his last name. Joe the security guard. Good morning, Mr. Mathewson. By the way, that's my name. Daniel James Mathewson. Good morning, Mr. Mathewson. Hi, Joe. How are you today, sir? Oh, I'm fine, Joe. Has the Lord been good to you today, sir? Yeah, the Lord's been good to me. And he starts quoting a verse. Remember, no temptation has seized you. I push the button. I'm going up to the 28th floor. The guy drives me nuts. He's too sunny for my type, you know. I get upstairs, and I walk into my office, and the cleaning lady's still in there. Now, I've told her 1,000 times, I want the office clean when I get there, because I've got a lot of work to do. Especially today. I've got this proposal due at 2. I've got to get done. I am a Christian, so I don't want to verbally tell her that I don't want her there. I want to be nice. And so I do it non-verbally. You ever done this? You know, I sit down at my desk, and I just get to work, and I'm communicating with every fiber of my being that I don't want to talk to her right now. She wants to talk to me, though. Hey, Mr. Mathewson. Hello. And she's looking at the pictures on my desk. Oh, your children, Mr. Mathewson. They're so beautiful. Oh, thank you very much. And your wife, what's her name again? Yeah, okay. And she's okay, fine. And she gets the hint after a little while. And she goes to the door, and as she's leaving the door, she says this. She says, Mr. Mathewson, you're a good man. You're a good man. I pray for you, and I pray for your children all the time. I just want you to know that. And she walks out. Now I'm feeling guilty, right? I mean, she prays for my kids, and I don't have a time. But, you know, the proposal's got to get done. And for the rest of the morning, I've got people coming in my office time after time after time after time, and they've all got stuff to do with my proposal, and some of them have dropped the ball, and I had to yell a few times. I mean, when you're coming up to a deadline, that's okay. And I'm yelling at them, and I'm getting them where they need to be, and about noon, I've got everything together. I've got 2 hours before the proposal. I decide to go have a bite to eat. So I get in my car, and I'm driving down the road, and that's when it happened. And just like that. Jesus came back. Just like that. Now, in my Bible studies earlier in my life, I'd always learned that one day Jesus was coming back. And one day made it sound like it would be incessantly in the future. But all of a sudden it was very present. It happened. Boom. It happened on... Oh, the date's not important. But that's the day it happened. I can't go into the details about the second coming of Christ. That would be a whole story in and of itself. We don't have time this morning. But I can tell you what happened next. We went through this great throne room where a great book was opened, and my name was found in the book of life, and I was ushered into heaven with millions of other saints. And as we're walking into heaven, I can't tell you what it was like other than to use an analogy. And the analogy was like a ticker tape parade in New York, you know, where everyone's jumping up and down. It was like that, except multiply it by millions of people. And millions of emotions, and the heart and the life and the joy in people. The exuberance was like nothing I'd ever seen before. I was seeing people that had died years earlier that I'd missed so much, and I'd almost forgotten I missed them. And we were hugging and embracing, and I was almost exhausted, and so I sat down on a rock just to catch my breath for a minute. Okay. Sit down on the rock, and while I'm sitting there just thinking about this incredible day, I sense a presence. I sense there's someone with me. And I'm looking around, and I don't see anyone, but I know someone's there. And so finally I said, is somebody there? Somebody was there. Hello. What and who are you? He said, Uriel. Uriel, what are you? He said, I am one of the heavenly beings. I said, angel. Nice to meet you, Uriel. Never met an angel before. It's nice to meet you. He goes, well, I've known you for a long time, Daniel. You have? Yes, since the day you were born. I was commissioned to care for you since the day you were born. I said, oh, you're my guardian angel. He said, well, we don't use that terminology up here, but if you want to call me that, that's fine. And I went to give him a hug, and I couldn't. I mean, how do I describe him? He was kind of like this hollow person made of light. I could see him, but I couldn't touch him. And I said, oh, Uriel, I'm so glad you're here. I have so many questions. He said, shoot. And he taught me the ropes of heaven. He taught me that communication is different in heaven. That we don't have to use verbal communication, that we can just think things and hear each other. And so I tried it. And we were talking to each other. It was really incredible. And he taught me about time, that time is elastic in heaven. That something that might take 5 years on earth might be done in a minute. Something that might take a lot longer is done a lot shorter. And time is, we're outside of time. And that was a new concept that kept coming back. He talked about eyesight, that something could be 30 miles away, but I'd be able to see it like it was right in front of my face. This came in very handy in a few minutes, as you'll see. He taught me about transportation. He taught me about the fact that he could lift me up and he could take me through the air. I wouldn't have to walk anymore. So we took a couple test spins. So cool. I'm just flying around. Uriel's carrying me around. And then he set me down and he taught me about the coming judgment. I said, what? The coming judgment, the Bema seat of Christ. I said, wait, I thought I passed the judgment. Wasn't that what I went through? That was the great white throne of judgment. But soon there will be a judgment for everybody in the church, for Christians. And I got terrified. I mean, as soon as I heard that, I got this shriek of terror from my heels all the way up my body. And how do I describe the fear?